Hi, I'm Berta Karapetian from School Product Yarn Shop, the oldest yarn shop in New York. I am also a founder of Carabel Yarns, which I'm going to be using all through my videos. Today, I'm going to do the tutorial for my beginners knitters and also for my knitters who are knitting for a long time about the casting on. The foundation of knitting. And for people who knit for a long time, they may still find my little tricks useful. So let's start casting on. My favorite method of cast on is long tail cast on. For that purpose, we usually leave one tail short and the other tail comes from the yarn. And often people ask me, how long? There is a formula to figure that out, and I will show it to you right now. So what you do is you turn it around your needle 10 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you measure that piece, and let's say you need to cast on 20 stitches. You do twice as long, and that is how long is your tail. So after you measure your tail, you will start casting on. For the right hand knitters, you make letter C with the left hand and you put your yarn over your fingers, and with the 3 fingers you hold the yarn. So you basically create this triangle and hold it very strongly here, because we need the tension. Without the tension, there is no knitting without the tension. So we are holding it here. So the first movement is we're going from the back down, and you can see that we created this V. So after that we are going, there is 4 movements. One is under, then you go over, then there is a loop which goes over the needle. You release the thumb and pull the yarn. Once more, under number 1, over number 2, loop goes over the needle. At that moment, you release your thumb, put it under the yarn and pull it. Let's do it. Under, over, loop and pull. Under, over, loop and pull. Now there is a little trick to it. I always suggest that you keep it very frugal with the space, very small. Then the process is much easier. You go under, over, loop and pull, under, over, loop and pull, as opposed to if you have a long tails, you wouldn't be able to control that, and that would be very difficult. So remember to keep it very close. Under, over, loop and pull, under, over, loop and pull. That is what we do for the long tail cast on. So then I will show you what we can do when we need this long time cast on gives you a very nice and sturdy foundation. Sometimes we need extra flexibility in the cast on. For that purpose, in Europe, people cast on 2 needles. And they do exactly the same thing, but they're holding 2 needles. From the back, go down and go again under, over, loop and pull. All absolutely the same, but it will give you much more flexibility when you start knitting. You are going to see that cast on is very stretchy and very good for socks and hats, and it will never be a problem for you to wear that piece that you're making. So that is done on 2 needles. Now, after you finish casting on, you remove one and start knitting normal way, but the stitches are bigger and they are more flexible. So that is the casting on with the 2 needles. Now, sometimes there is one more thing that I want to show you what happens when you are casting on with long tail. As you probably noticed, the tail is disappearing, and so as you are going for more stitches, the tail becomes shorter and shorter and shorter, and people sometimes ask me, what happens? I don't have the tail left. That is totally normal. So as it disappears, and you know that you still have to go for 30 more stitches, for example, there is a little trick that I use. You just simply, we're talking when we're not measuring the initial tail, and I never measure the initial tail because I just don't. I just measure it by eye and never bother, wrapping around my needle. So if I see that my tail is not completely enough, what I am doing is I am switching the tails and continue casting on. You will never find that place of a switch, but it will allow you to do more stitches with a new short tail. That's a very, very useful trick that I'm using all the time. Now, there is another thing that I want to show you when you're casting on. When you are told, for example, for a big shawl to cast on 700 stitches or 500 stitches or whatever, and you really don't want to miscalculate the tail, what I would suggest you do, start casting on from 2 balls of yarn. You take 2 balls of yarn, of course identical balls, and you make a knot between them, and now start casting on from both balls, and in that case you will never run out of tail. You just keep going, and remove this. You will be going and going and going for 700 stitches or whatever you need to do, and you will never and then of course after you finish casting on, you will clip one off, and that's going to be your assurance that you will not run out of yarn.